What's going on, folks, and welcome back to some Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Today we're going to be talking about what's in store for Pantheon in the year 2023. This is going to be going over some details they covered during the recent live stream and talking about the roadmap that Pantheon is planning to follow. The first thing they mention is the pre-alpha dates coming up. Starting on January 28th at 10 AM, they'll be starting a 24-hour session, and the characters will be the same as we left them last time, meaning that there won't be a wipe for this one, and there might not be an upcoming wipe for the next one. Focusing on some items related to the roadmap, the first thing they talk about was the progress of VINL and how great it was to see up to 500 players in a single zone due to VINL capabilities, and that the next step in production would have to deal with implementing seamless zones. The team at Visionary Realms spent a great deal of time this past year on developing VINL, which is the in-house networking solution. This focus was aimed specifically at finishing VINL, upgrading VINL, and then ultimately validating that VINL was going to be able to do what they needed it to do. What they're working on now for Q1 2023 is activating and testing several of the MMO-specific aspects of networking that VINL will also handle. One of the first parts that would fit into this would be the seamless state of the overland. Historically, Pantheon was designed to utilize hard zone lines, which meant that the way that you phased from zone to zone could prove to be very limiting and was something the development team wanted to move away from as the game's development progressed. Some of the improvements they incorporated over this past year are going to allow them to bypass this limitation and give them free reign for where they can place these zone lines. Another facet they're planning to improve on is the persistence architecture. This pertains to anything that ensures your character's progress is always saved. This was something that Steve Clover had experience with and will be assisting the Pantheon team in strengthening. And the next kind of grouping of things that will be involved in this are their social systems. This is going to include laying the foundations for subjects like the guild system, the looking for group system, and cross-zone communication. One of the things they want to reiterate on is in regards to the looking for group system. This won't function as like a random automatic group finder, but more of a robust way for both yourself and groups looking for members to advertise what they're looking for and what they offer. The next topic they move on to for the 2023 roadmap is for crafting and gathering, something that personally excites me because I tend to have a very strong affinity towards these features, especially when there's more complexity embedded within them. Crafting and gathering is a section that multiple members of the team have been diving into and accomplishing some amazing things. As an example of this, Joppa decides to showcase some of the internal patch notes related to these systems that the team has gone over in recent meetings. They've made some adjustments to the way we interact with nodes in the open world. What they mean is that nodes are able to be selected as offensive targets. This allows players to have a visual of the health bar of the node that's targeted, so we can see how much remaining health it has as it's being chipped away. Joppa mentions that in addition to this, the better your gathering tool is, among other benefits, it's also going to do more damage and be more effective as you're using it with the node. Some of the other changes, the gathering skills are now improving with use. They've implemented the gathering animation. The interaction of the gathering now syncs up with the delay value of the tool that is being used. These are just some of the foundations they've been building for this side of the game, but as they come together and coalesce, all of these changes are making the gathering loop much more enjoyable, feel more intact, etc. So moving on, they start to talk about how the art team has shown significant growth and synergy over this past year. But skipping ahead of those details, I wanted to jump into the main bit of topic, which is some of the world building. Right now, the Pantheon team is working on the zone of Avendir's Pass, and this will be followed up by the region known as Silent Plains. If you look at where the zone is on the map of King's Reach, you can kind of tell where they're heading, especially because Joppa even says during the live stream that this region serves as a pivotal part of the continent, because it is kind of a connection point between the different pillars of the landmass. And as we can see, multiple zones tie into the specific region, such as the Halfling zone of Wild's End and the Elven region of Fairthale. They're excited about this region in particular because it'll be more of an open and free-flowing landmass as opposed to the rocky or cliff-riddled areas of Thronefast and Avendir's Pass that we're used to. On top of that, it's going to be a massive zone with a unique aesthetic, so it'll serve as a crucial stepping stone in the journey of Pantheon's progression. The next topic discussed during the roadmap is a topic that I've personally been a bit behind on covering, but it has to do with the player models and animations. So right now, we have seen some updates to both the human male and female models, but we haven't actually witnessed those updated models be implemented in game. The good news on this front is that lead programmer Kyle Olson is hard at work on the integration of the human models to be playable, and once those officially make it in, they'll start hooking up a lot of the new animations they've been working on, some of the improvements to like running, sprinting, the idle animation for example. So far their approach to animations has been centered around designing some that appear to be more serviceable, but don't exactly reflect what their final goal is for these underlying systems. For 2023, they'll be in a phase of going back to relook at things like the attacking animations, the auto attacks, weapon techniques. They especially want to emphasize that they want it to feel meaningful when you unlock a new ability or skill. You need to feel the excitement of how it looks, feels, and the power behind it. Quarter 1 will be a staging ground for this as they further design and hook these new animations into these various models. But needless to say, they're very excited for these upcoming showcases in these various systems for when they're ready. Joppa also confirms that the Dark Mirror will be following closely on the heels of the humans as they're finished as far as the models go, so once they're able to get the humans fully integrated, the Dark Mirror will be soon to follow. Some other pieces they've been trying to stitch together would include things like the armor implementation, for example. During the previous showcases, they've kind of dived into the process behind that and the different variations of armor they're able to build, alongside some of the system that was built by Terra and Dwart that will really help with the entire process, despite the size of VR's small team. The next portion they really dive into is just how ready the team is to really take on the challenge of world building. Pantheon as a game is aiming to be a massive world, with a lot of content. You have all these different races with their own individual starting zones and connected continents, various overland areas to travel through, and no shortage of dungeons or hidden areas. And a lot of this past year has been getting a lot of tools and systems in place to allow for creation to be done at a much faster rate, for things to be design driven, and for tools to do the heavy lifting. With their team growing last year and everything they put in place, it now feels like they're ready to tackle the development phase head on and start pushing their way through various milestones that are still remaining. That's essentially the main bits of the live stream that dive into what's next for Pantheon in 2023. Following this, alongside their final discussion, they also deliver a lore showcase featuring a faction known as the Aridola. For me, of course, I'd like to hold off on that for now as I have a very specific idea for how I'd like to deliver the lore, but I highly recommend checking out the introduction in the meantime. For now though, that's everything you need to know about what their plans are. I'm expecting to see faster growth on the world building side of Pantheon and hoping that by the end of this year, they'll have at least 3 to 4 more zones fully completed and ready to go, with at least half of the alpha tracker system showing as complete. As always, have a wonderful night or day folks, stay tuned for more coverage, and farewell.